Will the Raimi suit make it into Marvel Rivals? With all the movie skins being announced for the game, it really has me questioning if we'll get the movie suit that people would probably want the most if the devs made a poll on requested movie suits. Similar to how the Raimi suit ended up being the most heavily requested suit in Spider-Man PS4. Now, of course, Insomniac was more of a pathetic scenario to not have the Raimi suit until the near end of the game's support, because unlike Marvel Rivals, Insomniac launched with 28 Spider-Man suits, as they of course only had Spidey to focus on, which makes it all the more pathetic that they skipped out on the Spider-Man, who had games that pioneered the web-swinging open-world genre with Spider-Man 2 2004. And it's still a better game than the overrated Insomniac games by fairly objective means, such as being a PS2 game with a faster swinging speed than a PS4 and PS5 game, and superior challenge, whether it be the swinging mechanics themselves, or the swinging chases and races, or getting closer to an actual Sinister Six boss fight, where you can fight 4 bosses at once instead of just 2 at a time, and a cutscene of it. All of this in tandem with what's generally perceived as the most liked live-action Spider-Man, and I'd go as far as to say most liked Spider-Man in general. But no, Insomniac wanted to add a bunch of nothing burger skins first because I guess it's more respectable to give the most wanted skin at the end of a game's life cycle as opposed to at launch or as one of the first add-ons. All done for no reason when they gave 3 Tom Holland suits right away. Now look, Marvel Rivals is giving a Tom Holland Iron Spidey suit right away, and it honestly looks pretty cool. They're also giving a bunch of other MCU skins like Thor from the 4th movie, Namor from the 2nd Black Panther movie, and a bunch of Guardians of the Galaxy skins. And that's good for people who are fans of those adaptations of those characters, but people would also love to see that love go to Raimi's Spider-Man. Now, Rivals isn't a dedicated Spider-Man game, so they actually have the excuse to not do this right away as said before, as they are only launching with around like 5 or so Spidey skins, I believe. But I'm honestly worried about the spite that comes with the Raimi suit in gaming that I've started to notice since Spider-Man PS4 and the games that came out after. Now look, I can accept that current Spider-Men like Miles and Tom Holland will get a little more priority as those are current successful movies despite their blemishes, but why not do both as said with Insomniac in their 28 skins that didn't include Raimi, who somewhat started that game genre? It would have made for a better 100% reward than some joke skin. But anyway, this is speculation, but I honestly feel like it's some studio spite decision, as they're somewhat jealous of Raimi's Spider-Man generally being viewed as a definitive version of the character, as his movies echo for decades and decades, as opposed to other Spider-Man media that mostly never holds too much of a candle to Raimi. My only list of exceptions that aren't too laughably far off from Raimi is the Spider-Man 90s comics and the Spider-Man 90s TV series. Maybe you can throw in Spectacular as decent, but I think people are tripping when they call it better than Raimi just because they made Venom bigger or some other dumb petty nitpick complaint thrown towards Raimi, like organic web shooters regardless of the fairly good reasoning Sam Raimi gave. And then most of the video game versions of Spider-Man being pretty solid, excluding Insomniac, where that loser loses every fight against the main character in a second game when he isn't being helped by Miles or the symbiote, and then takes shit from a woman with bitchy body language who bitches at Spider-Man for being worried about her sneaking into criminal and military bases, and then proceeds to bitch at Peter for acting morally questionable when under the influence of a symbiote that she knows was altering his mind, unlike MJ from an actual great slept-on Spider-Man story where she was upset over his actions, but she didn't have the context of knowing he was wearing some alien suit that was altering his behavior, unlike this bitch who got hit with the ugly stick for no reason. I think all of these people who write for Spider-Man know that they won't write a version that actually has as much deep, meaningful substance as Raimi, so they get mad and decide to delay including the skin, or just not include the skin altogether. Marvel Avengers is another game that existed without the Raimi suit while Tom Holland got suits, but similar to Rivals, it's a little less pathetic since it isn't even the same genre as the open-world Spider-Man games and wasn't a full-on Spider-Man game. Although I think the hate of this game is a little overblown, people didn't really care about this game enough to really give a crap about what suits they would add, given that you originally would have had to spend like 10 to 20 bucks on a costume within a game that wasn't free to play and went up to 100 bucks of cost with certain editions. Hell, Spider-Man was a PlayStation exclusive character in that game, which means the devs were less inclined to give him attention. We also have LEGO games that went with Tom Holland, but they get an excuse of course, as those LEGO games were based on current movie versions of the character, and they didn't have 28 or more Spidey skins they chose over Raimi, but that still would have been nice to add to a LEGO game for the first time, but whatever, I guess he's on a LEGO set at least due to No Way Home. But now we circle back to Insomniac yet again. They learned from their first mistake and added the red and black Raimi suit to Spider-Man 2. People can say that they could have done things more accurately, as some mods have done, but it's in the game at launch regardless, as it should be. But a bit of Raimi bias can still be seen as Tom Holland has 7 suits, Spider-Verse has 4, but Raimi couldn't get the wrestling suit in, similar to how it was worn in the original Raimi Spider-Man game. Now, the argument could be Insomniac being too lazy to animate regular eyes, as this Spidey suit doesn't have any lenses, but they could have whited that out similar to what they did with the Miles skin that originally had the eyes exposed. I guess you can argue recent Spidey bias, as there's like 2 amazing Spider-Man skins that were skipped as well. I would have loved to use the Vigilante suit again instead of the large number of trash skins that nobody uses or asks for. But anyway, please don't give me the alleged unproved Insomniac death threat excuses for how the Raimi suit is being handled. A slim minority of people sending death threats with no actual attempts ever being made isn't an excuse to call the general fanbase entitled, as said in the last video of mine where I told these loser stands to get pegged. But anyway, I've seen too many dumb bot comments saying, "Oh, I wish Insomniac never added the Raimi suit due to the toxic fanbase and their death threats. They don't deserve it."
Yeah, let's come together and just all try to be rational for a minute. You know, let's put our biases aside, our grudges against one another, whether or not we agree that a game is well made or lazily put together, but one thing remains for certain, that if you have any sort of account on the internet, if you argue with any sort of person on any sort of topic, whether it be politics, religion, video games, film, any of that, you are more than likely going to receive some sort of death threat. That doesn't mean that it's excusable in any way, it just means that you're on the internet. As a matter of fact, what I think is more inexcusable is when people use those death threats or attacks that they get in order to excuse their own lack of action. It's really a way for them to dodge accountability for their ineptitude. It's really inexcusable to take that kind of death threat and instead of throw it away, throw it back into the faces of the people who are trying to make you feel that way or put you down, and instead build it up around you and make it a central part of your identity that, hey, I received a death threat from this person, therefore I get to do whatever I want because look at me, I'm a victim. No, I think that's victimizing yourself. In the rare case where you are in danger, perhaps you are in a situation where you have to defend yourself, defend your own life, you get swatted, then I'm most certainly on the person's side who got swatted. They don't deserve that. But to receive a few words from someone who's likely a 16 or 14 or maybe even 12-year-old on the internet and say, oh my goodness, because of this, I'm not going to be able to do anything. Look at me, I'm being terrorized on the internet by these crazy fans, generalizing based on what 1, 2, 3, heck 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people might have texted you, doesn't mean that the hundreds of thousands who are all calling for the same thing are engaging or even condoning the same behavior.
But yeah, with all that being said, we'll see if Marvel Rivals ends up adding the suit eventually. As said before, they have an excuse to not add it right away, as they are a live service game with dozens of characters they have to make skins for, but I honestly think, or would like to hope, that they will get to it due to the impact of Raimi, such as the most requested Insomniac suit being the Raimi suit, or No Way Home's success likely being due to the Raimi brand, whether it be his Spider-Man or his villains. A Raimi skin can probably be sold at the highest rarity, to be honest. I'm sure my buddy Restican and a few others in my Discord server would be willing to drop 20-ish bucks for it within this free-to-play game. Overall, Rivals is on a good path to success. The gameplay has enough significant differences from Overwatch, despite the rip-off allegations coming from people who are just using that as an excuse for a genre of superhero game they were just never interested in playing in the first place. As the differences Rivals has over Overwatch would be environmental damage, team-up moves, more of an emphasis on melee moves with characters like Spider-Man, Black Panther, Hulk, Iron Fist, Wolverine, etc. Traversals such as flight being more common, or Spider-Man where there's nothing in another multiplayer shooter that plays anything like him, as he plays like a Spider-Man game, except he plays like one of the actual good Activision Spider-Man games, unlike Insomniac where the game swings itself and auto wall runs for you, and tells you if it's safe or unsafe to sneak up on people, similar to a video I made on Marvel Rivals before that I may give a sequel. Unlike Spider-Man 2, I'll be able to play as Venom for more than a mere 20ish minutes without having to replay one singular level, or other great things Marvel Rivals has over it, like fun Marvel superheroines to play as, who look like actual women more, art style aside, instead of normal untrained humans like MJ and her ugly impractical face that only ugly, balding in their 20s deprived cuck Insomniac stand could defend. Bussin' Gaiats like Psylocke gets to have her classic appearance because non-Western Chinese devs does what modern zesty American devs don't. If they make Black Cat playable too before Insomniac does, then they'll be ultra cooked and embarrassed more than they already are to the eyes of a comprehensive gamer, who isn't just some bot that needs Insomniac training wheels, or else they'll crash into walls while swinging in an actual Spider-Man game. But anyway, tell us what skins or characters you want to see in Marvel Rivals. Thanks for watching.